Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. And afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and share their knowledge and experience with you. I hope you enjoy it. Right on. Mark, thanks for being with me. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I'm living life. The weather is great here. I live in the Atlanta area, and some people complaining it's hot down here, and yeah, it's hot. But if God didn't want us to have, that's why God invented air conditioning for us.
Yep.
Now I don't mind the heat.
No
I just
question
stay
about it.
out of it.
I love the hot weather myself. I can't stand the cold. It's
Where?
like
Tell me again where you are.
Bulgaria, Southern Europe, and it's about the end of the summer, so we're getting rain, but it's
Yeah,
perfect. It's like pretty warm, and I like it.
about
Now,
30 C. It's about 30 C, right?
no, below that, it's
Oh,
about
really? Okay.
25, 26,
Okay. Still
but
comfortable
it's still
though.
pretty
Still
good.
comfortable.
Oh
Hmm.
hell yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
at least it's not snowing, Denny.
We'll get it. We'll get it. I think we have about 2 months now, and we'll get more
Oh,
snow.
really? Okay. It's funny you say that because last year my wife and I went to Europe. We went to Switzerland, and the place where we went to the week before we went there, they had snow.
I mean, it's
When,
Switzerland. You will have snow
yeah.
almost the
But
whole
by the time we got there, it was so nice. The weather was so nice. San Moritz.
Now, Switzerland, Denmark,
Hmm.
Sweden, those are magical
Hmm.
places. I graduated in Denmark, so I know what you're
Oh,
talking about. It's
nice.
amazing.
Nice.
But I would rather not return. I love it, but I would rather not return. I love it here in the warm states.
Yeah. Yeah. You ever been to the US?
No, no, never have been.
Okay.
I
Well,
mean,
you have
I
an open
kind of,
invitation to come anytime.
right, I've kind of been there once when I played Assassin's Creed 3. But other than that, I have never been there.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome to come.
Many thanks. Normally, the program is focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How did you get there? How did you knew this was the way to go? But that's normally. We're not doing this today, aren't we, Mark?
Sure. No, we're not.
Uh,
Gonna focus on one of my favorite topics.
well, I guess it's both of our favorite topics because I do love it.
Hmm.
And you wanted to talk about Christianity. I want to hear your views about it.
Well, it's one of the controversial things, and it's been from day one. If you look at back at history, Christ, believe it or not, there. I don't know if you know, but the original term Christians was actually a derogatory term.
Yeah,
The people started out being members of the way being Christ. And I'm just blown away by folks can be around Christ for 3 years, every day for 3 years, and seeing all the miracles that he did, and still not, when he said, "Hey, I'm God," they're like, "Ah, no, you're not." And they only believed it when he said, "Okay, I'm gonna die, and then 3 days after, I'm gonna come back." And even when he came back, there was at least one of them who didn't believe, Mr. Doubting Thomas himself. Oh,
yeah,
I gotta see the mark in his side and the marks in his hand before I believe. So, but we shouldn't be too hard on the people who are around him because even though
no,
we don't see the daily miracles that they did, we still see a lot of things. And we still don't, many of us still don't believe. There's this guy that wrote this book. I can't remember his name right now. He said something to I don't have enough faith to be an atheist because
very
I
interesting.
think an atheist has to have a lot of faith in order to see how complicated the human beings are and are not just human beings but actually living organisms are, and still not believe that there's an intelligent design behind that. And if there's intelligent design behind that, why couldn't it be God? Somebody also said, and once you get to know me more, you know sometimes I'd go all over the place. So I'm sorry. My son will ask me a simple question and I'll talk for 10 minutes. So if I'm talking too much, just shut me up. Someone once said the probability, don't quote, I'm not gonna quote the numbers because I don't remember the numbers.
Yeah,
The
no,
probability of all those predictions that are in the prophecies that are in the Bible coming true are infinitesimal. And yesterday a lot of people dismiss the Bible.
yeah,
They
they do.
dismiss it. And it's really sad because yes, there are some. bad things. I mean, when God's wrath, God destroyed a city, Sodom. God destroyed destroyed all human beings except for six in the flood. But you
Well,
know what?
technically,
If God can create all these things, I'm not gonna question him. Hey God, why did you destroy? No, I'm not going to. My mind is not big enough for that.
exactly. I was actually trying to explain this to a lot of people, but you see, the thing is that you understand it, and this is not an
Hmm.
insult. I'm sure you understand, but some people may not understand. And I said exactly, your mind is not on God's level. You are
No
way out of
way.
your league.
No
You
way.
cannot comprehend why this was done. You know, when a
No.
child questions a parent, and sometimes the parent is like, well, you know what,
Hmm.
shut up. Because
Yeah,
I don't have to explain myself to you.
that's
And
right.
it's exactly this child-parent relationship. I was on a podcast maybe 2 years ago, I don't remember, and
Hmm.
we discussed a topic. Do you believe a man or a person can be poor if this man has faith in God? And I said no, because
Mm,
God's principles are eternal, and He already laid the way for you. Now, if you want to follow, those are eternal principles. You will be taken care of just one step at a time, but work without pray is won't get you
hmm.
anywhere, and pray without work won't get you
Play with
further
us.
either. So
Hmm.
those are
Hmm.
hand to hand. Now, you did mention that a lot of people don't really acknowledge the Bible. I don't think it's sad. I think it's choice.
True.
Uh,
True.
I've heard that it's only almost absurd. Like, well, if your God is so mighty, then why didn't he
Hmm.
did this and that? Like, first of all, he's not mine personally. I didn't order him from eBay. He's been there for forever. So he's
Good
as much
point.
mine as it is yours. And
That's
if
right.
you want to follow, that's all right with him. And
Hmm.
if you
Hmm.
don't want to follow, that's all right with him as well.
That's
The
right.
God doesn't impose anything on you.
Nope.
The rules are already
Nope.
here. Either you will follow or you won't. And it's
That's true.
ridiculously simple.
Hmm.
And I love it because I can speak for myself. I do have perfect peace here on earth.
That's
And
right.
that's the point. You mentioned that it
Mhm.
is sad. No, it isn't. Even at the
Yeah.
cross, even
Good point.
when Jesus was about to die,
Hmm.
one of his last words were, "Forgive them; they know not what they do," and they didn't
That's
because they
right.
were blinded, and
Hmm.
not physically blinded, spiritually blinded. So,
That's right.
of course, when Jesus was performing those miracles, they would be some would be blinded.
Hmm. Hmm.
I've heard about that. You mentioned that it was pretty amazing.
Hmm.
I forgot it was I think 200 something years ago. A few lawyers
Hmm.
in England decided to see if Jesus was exactly the one that the man he said he was, the Son of God, the Messiah.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So they treated Jesus's death the same way they would treat anybody else's death because when he was here, he was man, he was the Word in flesh, but he was a man.
Right.
And they actually proved that, let's say, because the Jewish leaders at the time, they didn't want Christ to spread that message. The Romans
Hmm.
didn't want that either. So they
Right.
worked together to finish the job. But
Hmm.
and somebody said, well, somebody took the body. Like, first of all, the
Hmm.
Jewish leaders asked, are you familiar with that story? Do you know what a Roman seal is?
I am on one of my favorite pastors, a man named John MacArthur. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
No, I haven't.
When you get a chance, if you could make a note of this, and just go check out the website, and then if you want to listen to more of his preaching, that's right.
Yeah,
He's 89 years old and he's still preaching.
nice.
He's been a preacher, head preacher at this church since 1969.
That's what I call natural
Yeah.
energy from God, like direct
And
from the source.
he's obviously slowing down because if you hear him today, he could hear he has a breathing problem now. And I've always admired him. And during COVID, I admired him even more because he closed this is in California, which is one of the toughest states in the US when it came to COVID. They had some of the most ridiculous things. They wouldn't even let people go to the beach.
I heard that. That was absurd.
That was ridiculous. And John closed on his church initially. And John is like, you know what? This virus has 90 something percent recovery,
Survival
yada
test.
yada, for people who've got it. I'm going to open the church. I'm not going to demand people come. I'm not going to force anybody to come. I'm going to go preach. And he went there and he preached. He preached every Sunday. And people came back and he refused to do the social distancing or mask and all that stuff. And the county came after him and the county lost. Yeah, and the county ended up settling with him. But well, John talked about, I follow John a lot. And his gty.org is his ministry. And you can get free sermons on any topic. Just
Send me
just
send me a
search it.
link once we're done because I want to put it in the
Okay,
description below.
sure. Yeah, I sent it to you in chat. You know what? Let
Yeah,
me do
that's
it
pretty
now
good.
so I don't
That'd be good.
forget.
Yeah,
Because I'll forget.
don't worry. And I was talking about the Roman seal while you're typing.
And he did a
Jewish,
message on Rome on the Jewish
I got it.
leaders trying to say,
GTY.org. Yeah,
huh?
GTY.org. I got it.
Yeah. The Jewish leaders talking about, oh, they hit his followers stole the body. Well, here are some things reason why you can't do it. That can't be true. Number
Yeah.
one, I, when it comes to graves like that, inside of a cave, they will roll a huge stone in front of it. And those puny guys who followed Christ couldn't roll up. For one thing, they all ran away. Only John and I think one other disciples, I think Peter. John
Peter
and Peter
Peter
were the
also
only
had military
ones who
experience, but there's no
stayed.
way they could have done it.
The other nine disappeared. Of course, Judas killed himself. So the other nine ran away, right? The second thing is the centurions who guarded that tomb, if they ever left, allowed anybody to come in there to take away the body, for example, they will be executed.
And
That's
you know
Roman
how?
law. Remember, the Roman are monotheists. They
Yeah,
considered Christians to be atheists because they only believe in one God. The Romans were monotheists, so they didn't believe in one God. They didn't
exactly.
believe Christ was divine. And number three, and John didn't mention this, but it just came to me, the followers of Christ in those early days were poor. Where are they
Yeah.
going to get enough money to bribe a guard to to defy his oath and put himself and his family in danger? No way.
No way.
No way. So,
I've studied a lot. You're 100% right. I've studied a few other religions out of pure curiosity because, I had
good
fun.
idea. Good idea.
I think Christianity is the best religion on this side I have. And man, I'm not saying it because I'm a Christian. I'm saying it because, as far as I know, and, people can correct me, I can be wrong, but as far as I know, it's the only religion that encourage you to look at your own self, to look at your own mistake. It's mandatory to forgive.
Yes.
Start your parents because it starts at home. Everything starts at home. It encourages you to forgive so that you can
Hmm.
be forgiven. Now, forgiving, it means, not hating. You shouldn't be hating.
Hmm.
Again, forgive them. They know not what they do. And those
Hmm.
are eternal principles. They will
That's right.
not change because you feel like it. I had a
That's right.
conversation
That's right.
with a young man, younger
Hmm.
than man. I'm 33, so I think he was like 15 years younger than I am, even younger.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
had some issues, personal
Okay.
issues.
Hmm.
And we were talking, and he was like, I'm born that way. Like
Okay.
we are all born messed up. That's why you have to be born again. Just
That's
like
right.
once you're born,
I
you can.
love the way you say it. I love the way you say it. You have to be born again. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, when you're born from your mama and you can't just go back there because it
Nope.
doesn't work like that. Once you're born again from the Father, from the Spirit, you
Yes.
can't really, because now you're no longer blind. Now you see that.
That's
And
right.
that's why now you don't judge because you know what you did and why you did it. Now you understand why other people were doing it like that. And
Hmm.
that's why
Hmm.
you don't get to judge. And I don't know of any other religion that explains this super perfectly and super simple.
But also remember that John also said this too in one of his messages that of all the religions out there, only one religion had the founder, so to speak, of the religion tell you that, hey, I'm gonna die, and then came back. All the others, their founders died. And we know where their bodies are.
Yeah.
Nobody has been able to find Christ's body. All they have to do is produce the body of Christ. Just produce it. And Christianity would be over.
Exactly.
And
If
they
they were
couldn't.
able to produce a body back then and there, this would be over. In
It
one
would be
week, this
over.
would be. Yep.
Oh yeah. You mentioned about you studied other religions. I'm glad you mentioned that because there was this guy, his name is Lee Strobel. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
No, I
Lee
don't think
was
I have.
Lee was a he was trained as an attorney. And when you train as an attorney, I don't know how it is in your country, but in the US definitely a lot of those folks develop a cynicism.
Yeah,
And to make it even worse, he became a journalist, which is even make you even more cynical. So he was an atheist. He didn't believe in God because he saw some of the You see, a lot of people say they don't believe in God because, and they say that because there's so much evil in the world. What they don't seem to understand is God didn't create evil. God gave us choices and we choose to do evil. Just like Cain chose evil in killing Abel, and and Satan chose evil in trying to overthrow God. That's the same way we humans, we choose evil. And so did Adam and so did Eve, right? They chose to do wrong, to
exactly.
disobey God. He's and his wife had a conversion. His wife wasn't an atheist, but she wasn't going to church either. She had a conversion and she started going to church, and she tried to encourage him to come to church. And he's like, nah, can't not gonna do that. And she kept at it, encouraging him. And then he decided, okay, I'm gonna study this Christianity thing, and I'm gonna debunk it. Yeah, as if he was the first. Didn't you
Yeah.
hear about a guy named Voltaire? Anyway, or Russell, Bertrand Russell. Those are big time
Yeah, I like
atheists.
Voltaire.
Well, he started studying, and the more he studied, the more he realized that this thing it's got to be there's something with this religion, with this Christianity thing. And he studied Buddhism, he studied Islam, he
Yeah.
studied, you know, Confucianism, Hinduism, and he realized that only Christianity, with its grace and its gift of grace from God, that's all you need. That's all we get. Of course, James said, you know, grace without works is dead. So
Yeah.
with that grace, we'll change, and now by that change, people will see the fruits in us, right? But we don't have to change in order to be good enough for God. We're never going to be good enough for God. And he studied those religions, and he said, you know what? It's got to be Christianity. I know this guy is a Christian. He was an atheist, and he became a
Right.
Christian.
Keep in mind that he was looking for it. And in all fairness, he was objective when he was looking for it.
He
I
was.
had a
Give him
talk with
credit for
a
that.
with a guy, and I asked him, I knew he was an atheist. I
Hmm.
asked him, if you what will be required for you to believe in God? I know he's an atheist, stone cold. Well, I don't know. Okay, let's say that Jesus walks into the room right now. Will you believe him then? He said, no. And I said, well,
Okay.
then there's nothing really to discuss. I'm not here to persuade you. If either you want to or not,
That's right.
there's no point of a debate here. And in all fairness, I had this conversation as well some time ago now
Hmm.
when people said it's important to believe in God. I said no, it's not. It's important to believe God, to believe what He said.
Hmm.
We all heard that. We all know of the story when Lucifer took
Hmm.
1/3 of the angels and he rebelled. Well, if you look into that, you will see that Lucifer himself believes in God. He acknowledges
Hmm.
the existence. He
He
knows
does.
very well about God, and he knows very well about his son Jesus Christ.
He
He is
does.
very aware of that. He believes in them, but he doesn't believe them. He believes he's better than them. And this is why I had a conversation. Is a local priest here, funny guy, amazing guy.
Yeah.
Said, keep in mind, Lucifer is incredibly powerful, very strong,
Yes, he
very
is.
smart, and
Yes, he
and
is.
he's good with words. But he only lost twice in his career. His entire career, he lost twice. Once to God and once to his son Jesus. But in all fairness, don't be very hard on the guy because he's fighting God. There's no way you can
That's
win this
right.
anyway.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
won't end everybody else, so you gotta hand it to the guy. He knows what he's doing, but he will never be God.
No, he won't. And he wanted to be, and God, there's nobody who can be God but God, right?
Exactly. And
You know,
this is why if you're really into it, if you want to even try to believe, the path is right in front of you. But if
It
you
is.
really don't want to, nobody will force you.
No, unfortunately, though, we got to talk about the elephant in the room that
Yeah.
Christianity has been associated, or people who call themselves Christians have been associated with some of the evil that have occurred in the world. You know, they have used force to convert people. They have used coercion, and some people even accuse God of coercion. What kind of man, what kind of person would say, this is, I'm not quoting, but I'm paraphrasing an atheist. What kind of person would say you got to worship me or else you go to the bad place? Nobody's forcing anybody.
Yep.
We're giving them choices. You worship me, and if you reject me, there's your destination. You
And
still are free to do it.
you won't have anything to do with me.
Yeah, I mean, if you reject him while you're alive on earth, assuming his son has not returned yet, nothing's going to happen to you.
Technically, that's an
People
interesting
who follow
point because
Christ get sick, despite what the prosperity gospel say. The people who follow Christ die. People who follow Christ are poor. People who follow Christ are rich. So following Christ doesn't mean that automatically only good things are going to happen. In fact, Christ warned us and said that once we start to follow him, the opposite will happen.
exactly.
And a lot of people have lost their lives and so on in following him. One of my favorite people was a guy named Polycarp. Have you ever heard of him?
I have heard the name. I don't know the story though.
You know, he was accused of heresy by the church, by the way, just so you know. So the
Which year?
church has been associated.
Which century was that?
Oh gosh, many centuries ago. Can't remember. He knew John, who was the apostle of Christ. He knew John.
Okay.
So you're talking about the first century.
Yeah, first century. That's
They were gonna burn him at the stake, and they tell him to renounce his his belief in God. And he said something to the effect that 80 and 5 years I have followed him and he has done me no wrong. Why would I reject him now? And he even advised the guy who was burning him at the stake the better way to light the fire. That's Polycarp. Google him and look it
the
up.
story, but I couldn't connect it.
And
No,
another guy that's not too far from you, he was Czech. I don't know how far Czech
we're
Republic
pretty
is
close.
from you guys.
Although I don't think
Look,
Czechoslovakia existed back then, so
no, it didn't. It was a Czech. It was a Czech Republic. I don't know if it's just called the Czech Republic, but this guy
yeah.
was Czech. His name is Jan Hus. You ever hear about his name in Czech? Apparently, is Goose. His
I
last
haven't.
name. It's Jan. I think it's Juss. I can't remember how you spell his last name, but it means in Czech it means goose. He was
Okay.
burned at the stake too, and I'm told that that's where they got the term "your goose is cooked." Have you ever heard of that
I've heard of that. I don't think
term?
they got it from there though.
Apparently, that's what I heard, that it's from
Yeah.
him because he was burned at the stake. He was also accused of heresy because of his belief, because of how he believes about Christ. And it was done by the church. So the church has been associated with a lot of evil. That's true. Our people
Well, and for
who
good
say
reason.
they're a part of the church have been
Right,
associated.
but the church twisted it. Now I'm catching
Mhm.
hell every time I'm mentioning this, but it is true. You can Google it right now. You can check and verify what I'm going to say later. It is true. The Pope, the papacy, not the current Pope, which is a complete loser and total douche, if you ask me, Lil Francis. But
Well, why don't you tell us exactly how you feel?
I kind of, I'll keep it to myself. Now I don't want to.
I
The
understand.
papacy at the very start, like fifth, sixth century, they placed that title on the Pope Vicarius Christo, which
Hmm.
means the vicar in Christ, Christ on earth, which on its own, it's absolute a mockery because the point of Christ, coming here and sacrificing himself is to remove the veil. That's why it
Yeah.
said that the veil is now removed. I don't need a pope to have the direct connection. I
Yeah.
already have the direct connection, and I don't need a man in a white dress to tell
That's right.
me what to
That's
accept
right.
and not to accept. Now, keep in
That's
mind
right.
that an individual is smart. The
Mhm.
mass is stupid. They've been stupid 500 years ago, they're stupid now, and they will
Yeah.
be stupid 500 years in the future. It's how we are. And people fell for that. He
Yeah.
never was the vicar of Christ. He's never going to be. That's why I'm always saying that the last pope was died in April 2005. I actually saw him, Carlo Wojtyla, known as John Paul II. Now that was a pope. That was a man's man. There
Well,
was, I don't know if,
JP2.
now that was an assassination attempt that
Yes.
could kill him. The first
Mhm.
interview he gave, the first interview said, I forgive him.
Mehmet Akka.
It takes a lot of faith and a lot of man's behavior to be like, I know he was
That's
blind,
true.
forgive him.
That's true. I mean, Stephen the first Christian martyr did forgive his kill Christ forgive his killers on the cross,
Yeah,
but Christ is God, so we can't compare ourselves to him.
technically the
But
son.
but Stephen did. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So we are required to forgive, as difficult as it is, no matter the offense. It's
No,
hard. It's
and
very
just
hard.
think about it. No matter
It's
how
very hard.
much I'm
Mhm.
sure somebody wronged you.
Yeah,
And somebody wrong. But in all fairness, none of us, from what I know, none of us have been severely beaten, humiliated, and crucified and left for 3 days on the cross. I
yeah,
wasn't, I don't think you were either. And yet he went through all this. He carried his own cross. You
that's
know,
right.
he knew
And
what
that's
was going
heavy.
to happen. And yet
That's
he
right.
now if that thing can happen to him and he can forgive, that every single one of us can. But you
That's right.
just have to drop the ego. You've noticed that I think that the ego is basically the greatest weapon the devil ever had. Because
I agree.
once you drop it, you're free of him.
That's right. That's right. Wow. 30 minutes is just not enough time to talk about this, but we should get back together sometime in the future and continue our conversation.
I am totally okay with that. For having you for part two, you're gonna be blessed.
Oh yeah, and Fridays for now seems to be okay. I'm working on some angles that we'll see how Fridays work out, but Fridays for now seems okay. So let me know
Seems
when
pretty
you want
good
me
to me
back
as
on.
well.
And I dropped a couple of things in
I
the
know.
chat. Grace to
Saw them.
you. And about the last one about Jan Hus.
I
It's
will
actually
check it and
Jan,
I
but they
will.
said they gave the English version of his first name. But I learned that one from John MacArthur. So you can I've been listening to John for gotta be about 34 years now. So long time from
Yeah,
when he was a
before I
young
was
man.
born.
From when he was a young man. I know
Time
he's
flies.
89, and I honestly I sometimes worry each day like, okay, when are we gonna hear that John is gone? But we still have his recordings.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to listen to his recording until I'm home with the Lord myself. And I just have this tremendous admiration for him.
No,
You know.
it's great that there are still people who are talking about it. It's a very important topic, you
And
know.
he lives in California. The devil's spot in right in the middle of Gomorrah.
I've
So
heard about that too. I don't know how true it is, but yeah, because I've been doing interviews for so long now. I've
yeah.
heard that a lot. I don't know if
About
I want to believe.
California?
I'm sorry?
About California?
Yeah, because I know that Ronald
Yeah.
Reagan was from there, so I don't think it's
Mhm.
that liberal.
Well, I mean, California is no worse than the Bible Belt. I live in the Bible Belt, and there are people down here who sin too, just like people in California. I mean, look at where Paul was. Paul went to Rome, the middle of the debauchery. I'm not talking about when he went as a prisoner. I'm talking about he actually traveled to Rome
Yeah.
preaching. He went to Athens. You know, they have multiple gods there. They have all this debauchery, and he still preached the word.
Have you,
So,
Mark, have you ever read the Scandinavian, the Slavic,
mhm,
and the Greco-Roman mythology?
I have.
Man, those guys are so
I used to
messed up.
love mythology when I was a kid.
I wouldn't be having those people around me like for friends or neighbors. Those guys were
Mm,
insanely messed up individuals,
yeah,
perverted on every level. No
yeah,
way in hell I'm going to worship that, let alone allow someone that syphilistic person around me. That, but yeah, the
yeah.
world was that messed up back then.
It is still messed up, and I think the biggest difference between now and back then, people say, "Oh man, the world is so." so much debauchery. It's just that information can be
Yeah.
transported faster today than 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
My wife and I went to Italy in 2018, and we went to Hayden's Palace, I think Hadrian's Palace, out in the countryside. And you can see where all these baths are, and you can just project your mind back to the Middle Ages
Yeah.
when all the debauchery was happening. So sodomy was happening back then. In fact, Roman men married only to procreate.
Yeah.
They had prostitute. They took indulged in the services of prostitutes. They had mistresses, and they also had homosexual relationships. Nero married a boy.
I don't know. Marriage within two men or two women was definitely not going on, but the relationship was there. But definitely was
Yeah.
never it was never official in the Roman Empire.
It
Maybe
wasn't. I don't
no,
know. Wasn't
no,
okay.
absolutely not. Maybe it there
But
was
but
something
but
like
Nero
that.
did though.
I'm
Nero
sorry.
married a boy. Nero married a boy though, and he was the emperor. So wouldn't that have made it legal?
He was an emperor. All right, just
Yeah, only the
let it,
emperors could do it. Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
Or the hierarchy. Okay.
Yeah, but for the rest of it, there's no way they could have done. As a matter of fact,
Okay.
Octavian, the one after Caesar, the great
Hmm.
Caesar. Caesar was an amazing general, no question about. But Octavian was the best, probably European leader we've ever had,
Hmm.
because he was messed up individual. He wasn't a homosexual, but he was with all kind of women all the time. But he made it like very family friendly
Okay.
policy. Like, for example, soldiers that are married to widows of soldiers and
Hmm.
are promised to train the children were stationed within the empire and
Oh
almost
wow.
relief of taxes. He
Wow.
made everything possible to keep the family structure together. He himself was a messed up individual. It was a lot of senators asked him, like, okay, so it's mandatory for us, but not for you. And it's a very
Yeah.
famous quote. It's not a quote because I don't have it in front of me, but something like, well, technically, an emperor needs an empire, which has to be healthy. But the
Okay.
empire doesn't really need an emperor. So those
Ooh,
rules don't apply to me. All right,
makes
I'm just an
sense.
emperor. So
It's hypocrisy, but it makes sense.
it does. So yeah, big
Yeah.
salute to the to Octavian. And with that said,
Yeah.
Mark, because we're hitting the hour. Again, let's
Yep.
figure out part two. It was amazing talking to
And
you.
keep posting those. I don't have the courage to do that because I
I
use
do.
LinkedIn as a way to get jobs, and I don't want to scare prospective employers. But
Yeah.
trust me, at times when I see that, because real quick,
Yeah.
I know you've commented a lot on what happened in Israel in October 7th.
I did.
October, you know where I was in October 5th? I was in Germany, October 5th, visiting Dachau. And 2 days later, they attack Israel. I'm a huge Israel fan. I want to go to Israel. Just haven't made it yet, but I
I
hope
love
before I
Israel
pass
and
away, I'll be
Israelis,
able to go.
but my best advice to everybody: if you want to visit Israel, visit. Because walking through Israel is like walking through the Bible. It's amazing, and
I know.
especially Jerusalem area.
Oh my
But if do what you want, of course, but not right now. Wait for the war to end because it's super dangerous. A
God. Hmm.
lot of Jews, I have a lot of contacts over there of everything. A lot of Jews have left the country.
Oh no. If Trump wins, I'm gonna go before his term ends because I believe that if
Yeah,
Trump wins, Iran will be neutered for the time being, and other countries will be
yeah,
scared to attack Israel, and other countries will want to make peace with Israel. But don't forget the Abraham Accord happened during Trump's first administration. If Kamala Harris wins, God help Israel
yeah.
because she's not gonna do anything to help him.
Yeah,
Anyway, you're right. Take care and
right
God bless and have a wonderful weekend.
on. Likewise.
Take
Bye, Mark.
thanks.
Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Gap, LinkedIn, and Facebook. ring the bell, and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.